Although my experience with video games has been predominantly individual, as they're not popular in my country, the internet has allowed me to connect with many players with similar interactive tastes. Truthfully, my motivation to write about this industry began with small groups of people with whom I was passionate about sharing the titles I liked, demonstrating the massive impact communities can have. While video games have an extraordinarily diverse audience and don't always offer a warm welcome, it's common to see players congregate around the niches that interest them, which can range from an entire genre to a particular product. As a result, I've traversed many social spaces in my digital life, sharing with all kinds of fans. So I want to invite you to read this list of the 8 hardest games with the most wholesome communities. Being a huge fan of everything software has done in the last couple of decades, except for Elden Ring Night Rain, but that's a different conversation, I admit the community that supports their work isn't particularly healthy. Regardless, the only time I felt a genuine sense of warmth has been with Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, where the motivation for challenge and self-improvement seems to be far above the usual elitism of Soulsborne fans. With everyone having a more similar experience, rooted in effort rather than seeking alternatives like leveling up or using a different build, there's an unspoken consensus about the respect and inclusion every user who attempts or succeeds in beating the game deserves. I'd say it's not a reasoning that justifies the lack of respect and inclusion often evident in games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, but it seems to be at the cornerstone that makes Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, a much safer place. From the patients still waiting for a Tomo DLC, to the veterans recommending how to progress or tactics for attempting a speedrun, there's an anomalous lack of malice that actually makes you want to stick around. While Devil May Cry 5 isn't as demanding as the aforementioned titles, except for the quest to earn all the achievements, which is inhuman, I must say I adore its community with all my soul. The series has managed to establish itself in the hearts of many people since the century's beginning, with style and charisma, although more so through the 5th installment, which made the game more accessible and appealing to the mainstream audience. However, surprisingly, I've never noticed any pedantry or exclusion for those who started at the end. Instead, I've received a constant invitation to learn about the rich history of this wonderful franchise, personally including myself in the exhortations because of how good it feels to get someone to join in. Whether it's praising the existence of Devil Never Cry, hating Devil May Cry 2, or sharing our love for Virgil, the series' latest game has been the ultimate exponent in uniting the IP's fandoids, which is an additional merit for an already superb, fast-paced hack and slash. Monster Hunter Wilds is difficult, not in the ordinary sense of the word, as its demands come from the countless mechanical variables you must consider to enjoy it. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, the community tends to be very responsive to new players, guiding them with the patience of a saint, because they understand how difficult it is to enter the franchise for the first time. While Monster Hunter Wilds is the series' most accessible entry due to its refined formula, it's still difficult to digest, so I'm surprised to see so many people explaining with such common detail how to hunt a Yan Kutku or how the heck to avoid being blasted by Gormigala. One would think that a franchise with such a high barrier to entry would present a challenge to integrate, but that's far from the truth. The game's fans are pleased to see more and more hunters joining, which is a welcome change of scenery, especially in these times of digital hostility. Dead Cells is a highly complex and deep game that I'm sure most of us will only scratch the surface, as it boasts endless layers reserved only for the most dedicated and skilled. Those same distinguished players are the ones I've found to be the most passionate and supportive, as they're on the front lines to advise you on how to navigate the sheer difficulty of this indie marvel. Since the game spent years in early access, many grew up alongside it, creating a community full of people who understand the game and appreciate it in a special way, making sure to pass that passion on to others. Considering the great respect Motion Twin generated over time in the indie scene for creating one of the industry's best games and supporting it for numerous years, it's obvious that all the elements are cohesive to create a mature and comfortable space. It's funny how such sensations contrast with how devilishly difficult it is to get past the second boss cell, though at this point I think that's part of Dead Cell's charm. Given that Celeste itself is an absolutely wonderful video game whose message has resonated deeply with the interactive medium, it was inevitable that it would emerge as the main reference point on this list. Indeed, it presents one of the most heartbreakingly difficult platforming challenges the video game industry has ever seen. But it also tells one of the most beautiful, empathetic, and relatable stories in recent years. Following Madeline through her climb of the mountain and her development as a character is the kind of life-changing experience it has achieved for hundreds of thousands of people who religiously flock online to praise the title. From video essays about how the challenge of overcoming farewell helped someone with depression, to articles about how they felt identified and seen by the plot's events, Celeste fans know pain like no one else, and therefore fight it with great determination. Whether you're into speedruns, fan art, or discussing the difficulties of modern existence, both Celeste and its community are there for you, which can't be said for virtually any other video game. As my only partially unpopular opinion on the list, Undertale has a community with its ups and downs, but my experience couldn't be more positive. They're certainly incredibly passionate, and this leads them to be rigid about how you choose to enjoy Frisk's journey, but I applaud the affection with which they perceive it. Toby Fox's work has touched the hearts of millions of people, myself included, and this is reflected in the countless interesting interactions between users. From videos to debates, theories, mods, tops, art, and more, there are all kinds of dynamics. I've spent many hours reading interpretations of the game and the way it has impacted lives, which is only possible thanks to a community that feels strongly about it. As it stirs many emotions in me too, it's nice to know some people live video games with such intensity. The Binding of Isaac players are among the strangest specimens I've ever encountered, though it's impossible not to love their dedication to one of the most important indie productions in the history of video games. Watching them explain how a 1,000-hour roguelike starring a boy with an abusive mother who uses his tears as a weapon is the best video game of all time is truly impressive, because they also have compelling arguments. While I've never been able to connect with the game as much as the average fan, it's both endearing and peculiar to see how its community can bring the title to life so many years after its release, with mods and guides that have more work than a university thesis. Even though I would never deign to do so, I always like to read the anecdotes of those who managed to overcome the ultra-hard challenge or complete a purist run, as nobody is more passionate than these fellows when it comes to trying brutal feats. Although I stumbled into the Super Meat Boy community by chance as I was looking for a bug fix rather than a conversation about the game, I decided to stay due to the warm reception I received. I'd always seen the game as a relatively hidden classic with consistently positive reviews, and playing it firsthand not only confirmed its quality, but also that of the people who usually recommend it. It's not a massive or noisy community, and I think that's why I felt so comfortable, as it's more like an unusually large group of friends where everyone shares the misfortunes they've had with their controllers while trying to overcome the game's challenges. It's unfortunately dormant, given its small size, though I trust the recently announced Super Meat Boy 3D will rekindle the fire and allow me to see once again the enjoyable frustration I once saw in others' eyes with the original title.